6 spine-chilling stories of best friends, revealed secrets that turned into sinister nightmares. The diner was alive with the low hum of chatter but wrapped in an eerie glow, the neon sign outside flickering like a heartbeat in the desolate night. The group of 6 childhood friends Megan, Jake, Tara, Alex, Rich, and Lisa were crammed into a booth, all brimming with laughter at first. Megan, with her bright eyes and warm smile, did her best to keep the mood light, but the weight of history hung heavy in the air like a dark cloud, palpable against the diner's painted walls. As they leaned into nostalgic tales of their mischievous adventures sneaking out to the park at midnight, and the time they almost got caught skipping school, the air around them seemed to thicken. The flickering candles added warmth but masked an unsettling chill creeping in from the shadows. Laughter faded, replaced by glances that spoke of buried secrets and regrets. The night sky turned an inky black, cradling their fears like a dark cradle, and the distant howling wind felt like whispers beckoning them to look over their shoulders. Then it happened. A text broke the fragile reminiscing "I know what you did." It hung in the air, morbid and accusing. Jake's face went pale, remembering that summer trip he wished would stay buried. "Just a prank," he insisted, brushing it off, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. The tighter the group huddled, the heavier the silence weighed down, smothering the laughter. Before anyone could regain their footing on safer ground, Tara's voice quivered as she revealed her secret, a confession that threatened to rip them apart. "I saw what happened to Brian," she faltered, eyes darting between them. The revelation was like lightning striking in a clear sky, igniting fire in their hearts, but also blinding them with guilt. Their friendship began to splinter, accusations bubbling under the surface, echoing the whispers outside, the murmurs of unease seeping into their booth, out of tune with the countless memories they had shared. The diner felt suddenly claustrophobic, the darkened windows hiding shapes that lurked just outside, watching. "Maybe we should leave," Jake suggested, glancing nervously at the exit. But as he stood, the doors swung open, a gust of freezing air swirling inside, revealing a figure from their past. Shadows shifted menacingly, and Megan's heart raced. "You didn't think I'd forget, did you?" The figure rasped, their familiar voice sending chills down their spines. In that murky moment, laughter was snuffed out, silence filling the void like fog swallowing sound. With a flicker of overhead lights, the diner transformed from a place of comfort to one of dread. Darkness swallowed their booth, and for an agonizing second, they were left holding their breath. "What's going on?" Rich's voice was barely a whisper, panic edging into hysteria. The lights flickered back on. Megan squinted through the dimness and screamed. Lisa's seat was empty, only a blood-stained note sitting ominously in her place. "You owe me." Tension exploded, and their phones buzzed again. "I know what you did." Each message tightened the vice around their trust. Their childhood bonds, once vivid, now frayed, began to unravel with every accusation, every truth laid bare, revealing that darkness amongst them could no longer stay hidden. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." But as they faced the growing storm within their midst, strange figures began to materialize beyond the diner's walls. Each shadow whispered the ghosts of betrayal, shaking the very foundation of the friendships they thought were unbreakable. The group huddled tighter, hearts pounding, voices quaking, now trapped in a nightmare they couldn't escape. And as darkness fell upon them once more, the ultimate question echoed: would they survive the night, or would the ghosts of their past swallow them whole? Panic ripped through the diner like a sudden gust of wind, swirling the air into chaos. Megan's breath hitched as she looked around the group. Every face was a mask of fear and disbelief. The empty seat where Lisa had just been felt like a gaping hole, a physical reminder of the darkness that loomed. "Where is she?" Alex whispered, the tremor in his voice barely above the din of the flickering lights. "We have to find her." "No!" Tara interrupted, her eyes wide and panicked. We can't just run out there. We don't know what's out there. Their phones buzzed again, and they froze, dreading the sight of another message. This time it simply read, "Time to pay for your sins." Each word pierced their hearts like ice, the weight of their shared guilt hanging in the air. The waitress hovered nearby, her expression blank as if she was a mere ghost, but her defensively crossed arms betrayed her unease. "Listen, you all need to leave. It's not safe here anymore," she said, her voice trembling. Before they could respond, the lights flickered violently, illuminating the gray, battered diner for just a moment. Through the glass front, shadows darted. Faces twisted in agony bore haunting grins that froze their blood. They could almost hear whispers coaxing them to join those outside. "What do we do?" Rich asked, glancing nervously around the table. "If we stay, we might be next." Megan's mind raced. "We can't split up. If Lisa's out there," her voice trailed off, thick with dread. "Then we should go," Jake insisted, his fists clenched. The feeling of suffocation tightened around them as they debated. Was it cowardice, or the instinct for survival that held them back? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen. Everyone jumped, their eyes wide with terror. They turned toward the sound, heartbeats pounding in unison. The clattering of pots that followed sounded like a warning siren, announcing something sinister was approaching. "Get down!" Tara screamed just as a figure burst through the kitchen door, a silver-clad man, face obscured beneath a dark hood. A glint of metal caught the light as he raised a blade, approaching slowly, menacingly. "Who are you?" Alex shouted, backing against the wall. "What do you want?" The figure continued forward, his voice low and raspy. "I know what you did." He took another deliberate step toward them. Megan's heart raced, each beat echoing the memories she desperately tried to repress. They had thought they buried their past, but it now clawed back to the surface with deadly intent. The door behind them flew open, a gust of frigid wind sweeping through. "Run!" Rich shouted, and that one command ignited their instincts. They scrambled from the booth, pushing against the walls as they charged for the exit, the fear of the figure driving them. But as they ran, shadows flickered in the periphery. Everywhere they turned, the figures seemed to close in, a multitude of half-formed memories manifesting as warnings. Each turn tangling them deeper in the web of their past mistakes. They burst outside into the cold, but the night was alive with haunting shapes that shifted under the streetlights. All around, the darkness was thick, tangible, and full of malice. "Where's Lisa?" Megan cried into the void, but her voice was swallowed by the night. They were lost adrift in a reckoning they could not escape. The tangled web of secrets now spiraled violently beyond their control. Just as they thought they were free, the sudden crashing of another figure against the window sent them all shrieking back. The diner stood as a silhouette behind them, a pack sealed in blood. "Where do we go?" Rich gasped, trembling from the cold, but they knew there was nowhere left to hide. Every shadow shifted, every sound carried a threat. They had embraced the darkness, but now the cost was becoming clear. The dreadful realization hung thick in the air. This was just the beginning. What other horrors awaited them out here, and would they confront the fury of their past before it consumed them all? The cold gripped them as they huddled together, each breath visible in the frigid air. The streetlights flickered like dying stars, casting elongated shadows that danced ominously around them. They glanced towards the diner, its windows now opaque, a fortress sealing away their shared guilt. "Stop looking back," Jake urged, his voice rising in panic. "We need to move." "Where? Into that darkness?" Tara retorted, her voice nearly choking with anxiety. "We might as well give ourselves to whoever that is." Megan clenched her fists, wrestling with the fear that surged within her. "We can't leave Lisa out there. We have to find her." Silence swallowed their words, each second stretching painfully long. They were no longer just friends. They were ghosts of their choices, drifting further into a night thick with horror and regret. Every corner seemed to whisper the name of their forgotten past. "Stay together," Rich said, though his voice wavered. As they moved forward, each footstep crunched on uneven ground, echoing louder than their racing hearts. Shadows flitted just beyond their vision. Were they following? Or were they simply echoes of the guilt that bonded them? Then, from the dim alleyway, a faint, desperate voice called out. Help! It was Lisa! Without a second thought, Megan sprinted toward the sound, her heart pounding like a war drum. But as she rounded the corner, the alley was empty. Just brick walls, dark and slick with something that shimmered like oil in the moonlight. Lisa? She shouted into the void, panic rippling through the group. Back away! Tara pulled her back. It's a trap! But before they could retreat, the shadows began to swirl, morphing into figures, that same haunting grin carved into their faces. They turned to flee, and a cold, sharp wind bit into their skin. Flashes of memory pelted Megan. Laughter and warmth shattered under the weight of shared sins. A life spent brushing mistakes under the rug came crashing back. We can't let them get us! Alex shouted, but his words were lost as the figures advanced. They raced down the street, weaving between parked cars, desperation fueling their speed. Megan felt the chill of eyes watching them, mocking their fear. A spotlight of light pierced the darkness ahead, flickering like a beacon of hope. It was a gas station, its neon sign buzzing restlessly. Over there! Rich shouted, pointing. They bolted, muscles burning as they sprinted, the shadows clinging to them like sin itself. They burst through the glass door, the small bell ringing hollowly behind them. The cashier looked up, unsure, lips parted, confusion lining his face. Help us! Jake gasped, eyes wide. There's something out there. But the man only blinked, as if frozen in time, the color draining from his face. Shadows pooled around the perimeter of the gas station, pulsating with life, hungry for fear. Megan turned to the cashier, the urgency pounding in her chest. Call the police! Before she could finish, the lights flickered, plunging the station into darkness for a heartbeat, just long enough for dread to solidify in the air. Then they returned, revealing the figures gathered outside, their ghastly features more pronounced, eyes like glowing coals. Run! Megan yelled as she saw the silver-clad figure from the diner standing at the front, knife glinting like a star against the darkness. Now! They dove for the back exit, heartbeats thundering as the figures surged forward, nearly at their heels. But before they could escape, a chilling laugh echoed like bell chimes in a nightmare, familiar and taunting. Did you think you could hide forever? The voice slithered through the night like a snake seeking its prey. It was someone from their past, a face they'd thought they'd never see again. Megan froze, dread coiling around her heart. No. It can't be. The reality of their sins loomed larger than ever. It was clear now, their past had come back, and it was demanding payment. What awaited them in the darkness outside, redemption or ruin? As they faced the figures gathering behind them, the question remained, in escaping the shadows, would they finally confront the truths they tried to bury? The door flew open, and they tumbled into the back alley, the frigid air slashing at their exposed skin. Megan's mind raced. Hope fizzled out as they stumbled into the dark, forgotten space behind the gas station. Shadows twisted like predators, waiting for the right moment to strike. Where do we go? Alex gasped, glancing around. The sound of distant footsteps echoed, a metronome of dread that matched their frantic heartbeats. Anywhere but here! Tara shouted. The walls felt like they were closing in, suffocating them with the weight of their fear and guilt. Over there! Rich pointed toward a small, rusty door at the far end of the alley. Megan led the way, heart pounding, praying the figures wouldn't catch up before they found refuge. They stumbled through the door and into a dimly lit storage room. Cobwebs draped the corners like forgotten memories. Old crates and boxes lined the walls, their contents a mystery shrouded in darkness. Shut it! Rich urged, forcing the door back in place. The sound of footsteps grew louder, and adrenaline coursed through Megan's veins as she pressed her back against the door, heart hammering. The group stood in a circle, their breaths quick and shallow. In the eerie silence, broken only by the faint hum of fluorescent lights flickering overhead, they dared not speak. Shadows loomed outside, shifting just beyond their vision. What do we do? Jake whispered, voicing what everyone was thinking. Megan's eyes darted from face to face, desperation clawing at her. We can't stay here. We need a plan. We have to find Lisa somehow. But what if it's a trap? Tara interjected, fear etching lines on her forehead. Suddenly, the door shuddered under a violent thump. Megan's heart stopped as the laughter echoed, harsh and mocking, louder than before. You think you can run? I know your secrets. It was the voice, the familiar tone that had haunted their dreams. Each repeated taunt pulled them deeper into the abyss of their shared past. No. It can't be, Megan whispered, feeling her stomach twist. She remembered the night everything had changed, how their recklessness had taken a life. She looked at her friends, their faces pale, reflecting the horror of realization. Those figures outside, Alex breathed, dread coating his voice. There are past hunting us down. As realization set in, the door rattled again, more forcefully this time. The figures were relentless. They wouldn't just stop. Terror crept in like a slow poison. I won't let them take me. Tara's voice trembled, her resolve shifting. She kicked a box as if to shake off the darkness pressing on them. I won't go back. But the shadows answered, swirling around them like a storm of vengeance. Megan's hands reached for the nearest crate, pushing it aside, revealing a rusted old pipe. Desperation ignited within her. We can fight back. We don't have to let them win. Are you insane? Rich shot back, voice raised. What can we do against that? The mocking laughter faded slightly, giving way to the pulse of their fear. Megan swung the pipe, feeling its cold weight reassuring. We face our past. We confront them. Each friend nodded, fear morphing into a steely determination. Gathering what courage they had left, they huddled close, forming a tight circle. The door rattled once more, a promise of chaos waiting on the other side. Ready? Megan asked, her heart racing. The shadows paused, as if they too were caught in the moment. But just as they steeled themselves, a high-pitched scream pierced through the air, not from the alley, but from within the gas station. Lisa's voice echoed like a bell tolling for them, a call to action, beckoning them back to face their sins. No, Lisa! Megan cried, and without waiting for a reply, she burst toward the door, instinct and guilt propelling her forward. The figures outside loomed over her, but the promise of saving Lisa pushed all fear aside. Instinct kicked in, and she kicked the door open, emerging from darkness into chaos. What fate awaited them on the other side? Would they find Lisa alive or face the terrifying consequences of their past once more? The chaos outside swallowed Megan whole. The darkness of the alley clashed with the blinding flicker of the gas station's neon sign, illuminating shadowy figures dancing in the periphery of her vision. Her heart pounded like a war drum as she sprinted forward, arms pumping, every nerve in her body awakened by panic. Megan! Wait! Rich's voice echoed behind her, but she didn't dare look back. She had to find Lisa. The shriek had sent a jolt of fear through her chest, a piercing cry that turned her blood to ice. As she reached the entrance of the gas station, the sound of heavy footsteps grew louder. They were closing in, the taunts mingling with the sinister hum of the lights above. You can't escape, a voice hissed, taunting her. You can't escape your guilt. The station's interior was a disorienting maze of aisles and flickering lights. Fluorescent bulbs buzzed like angry wasps, casting erratic shadows against the walls. A chill skittered down Megan's spine as she burst past rows of candy and drink coolers, the remnants of the nightmarish world they had stepped into suffocating her. Lisa! She shouted, her voice breaking, echoing off the stark walls. A part of her agonized at how small her hope felt against the chilling reality they faced. Megan! The cry came from behind the counter, tremorous and terrified. It was Lisa. Megan's heart leaped, but a second later, reality slammed back in. The shadows crawled toward her, laughter turning serrated, gleeful in anticipation. Rushing towards the counter, she dove behind it just as the lights above flickered violently, casting erratic flashes in the room. Tara and the others had finally caught up, breathless and panicked. What are we going to do? Tara's voice shook, fear palpable in her words. They're everywhere. Megan turned, eyes wide. We need to get Lisa out of here. How many shadows did you see? I saw 3, Tara stammered. But they felt like more. Like they could multiply. Rich frowned, clenching his fists. We're not fighting shadows. We need a weapon. Something that really can stop them. A crash echoed from the back room, shattering their deliberations. The sound resonated like a death knell, pulling their focus. No! Stay back! Lisa's voice was sharp, desperation mixed with an edge of defiance. Lisa! Megan cried, legging it past the aisle towards the sound of struggle. She could see a flicker of movement, shadows writhing in an unsettling dance around Lisa's silhouette. Megan! Lisa's face twisted in fear and resolve. One glance was enough for Megan to see that something had changed. Lisa fought against an unseen force, arms flailing, eyes wide with terror. Renegade thoughts spiraled in Megan's mind. She had to save her. She tightened her grip around a bottle sitting atop the counter, a dusty old bottle of soda that felt dismal and useless. But it was all she had in that moment. Hold on! Megan yelled, tightening her fingers around the bottle as she charged forward. The remnants of guilt and fear first pierced her heart before igniting her fury. But just as she reached the edge of the counter, a thick, cold darkness coiled around her ankles, dragging her down. Fear rippled through her, paralyzing her movement. She howled and felt an icy grip on her throat. Megan! Rich's voice echoed in terror, but she couldn't break free. Shadows would not relinquish their hold. They're here to take you. The mocking laughter twisted through the air. Face what you've done. Questions flooded in her mind. What was it she had truly done? The past rushed at her like a freight train, and for a moment she felt herself crushing under its weight. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the tension, reverberating through the gas station. Rich had hurled a heavy metal object at the shadows, breaking the grip on Megan. She gasped, inhaling precious air and gritting her teeth. Run! Rich shouted. Get to the door! Megan wasn't stopping. Not without Lisa. But as she reached for her friend, a chilling realization crept in. Lisa was completely surrounded, the shadows looming like desperate memories ready to claim her. Let go of her! Megan screamed, diving into the fray, but the shadows swirled and closed ranks. With trembling hands, she hurled the bottle with all her might. It shattered against the wall, a disconcerting sound eclipsed by the shriek of darkness enveloping Lisa. In that moment of chaotic frenzy, Megan realized the looming dread that cloaked Lisa. It was beyond physical. The shadows didn't just haunt the place. They were rooted in their past, in what she had tried to forget. The air turned thick, and a dizzying darkness enveloped them all. Would they escape this nightmare, or would the weight of their past drag them down into an abyss from which there was no return? The shadows began to writhe violently as Lisa let out another piercing scream. As Megan fought against the darkness, she knew there was no escape without confronting the horror that had been chasing them all along. What dark truths awaited to be revealed? As the walls closed in, an unsettling whisper echoed, "You've come to face what you truly fear." The world twisted into a delirious canvas of shadows and screams. Each sound ricocheted off the gas station walls, striking like icy arrows against Megan's heart. The whispers surrounding her were not just malevolent. They were deeply personal, pricking at hidden insecurities and buried sins. With every ounce of determination, she lunged toward Lisa, heart racing like the headlights of an approaching car blinding her vision. But a wall of darkness loomed, ready to devour them both, pulsing as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Megan's hands trembled, fingertips brushing against the frigid air, thick with terror and desperation. "Fight it, Lisa!" she cried, trying to push past the unseen barrier. She could see Lisa struggling, her face ghostly pale under the flickering fluorescent lights. "Remember us. Remember who you are." But as the laughter intensified, so did the shadows. The darkness coiled tighter around Lisa, and Megan felt a deep, shuddering panic. Every fiber of her being screamed to save her friend, but the clutches of despair were relentless. "Help!" Lisa's voice cracked in anguish, desperation turning her words to ash. "Megan, "I can't," the shadows hissed, drowning her words, and then something shifted. The ground beneath Megan's feet wavered, as if the very foundation of her reality was being altered. Lisa's expression turned to horror, eyes wide with realization, or maybe it was recognition of the past that surfaced alongside the shadows. "Lisa!" The room crashed into chaos. Rich and Tara shouted over one another, voices merging into an incoherent chorus. When Megan glanced back, she saw Rich pummeling the darkness with anything he could grab: fuel boxes, a metal rod, whatever could hold off their encroaching doom. But the shadows didn't flinch, they absorbed the impacts, undeterred. "Simon! We need to," Tara started, but her voice cut off as a shadow lashed out, striking just behind her. Megan felt her heart seize. The shadows weren't just hunting, they were learning, adapting to the panic that swelled with each second. The more they fought, the stronger the shadows became. "We need to get out," she yelled, fear tightening her throat. But as she turned back to Lisa, something shifted in the air, a palpable change. "Megan!" Lisa's voice grew distant, echoing like a fading dream. "It's not just me. It's us. We're all in this together." The winding shadows blurred into haunting images, recollections surfacing of joyful moments, shared laughter, mistakes, everything they thought they could run from. The shadows had roots, and they were buried deep within their shared history. Rich's arms swung wide, barely missing Tara as she stumbled backward. "We're losing them!" he shouted, panic breaking through. "No! We fight back!" Megan felt a surge of adrenaline. "We have to confront it! Together!" Taking a deep breath, she stepped closer to Lisa, her resolve crystallizing. "I'm here, Lisa! Fight with me! We're not leaving our friend behind!" The shadows pulsed, then roared in defiance, swirling faster as if enraged by their newfound determination. That noise, it rattled her bones, urged dark instincts to rise and claim them. But she pushed back, grasping the truth that resided in Lisa's eyes. "No! You won't take us!" she screamed as she charged forward, grabbing Lisa's hand. "Remember! Remember everything!" In the swirling chaos, a vision emerged of the wreck, of the laughter that changed into a moment of silence, the guilt that chained them. The shadows twisted and contorted around their memories, feeding on their regrets. The darkness howled, and the gas station trembled around them. Megan glanced at Rich and Tara, who stood trembling, breathing fire. "Now!" she shouted, forging a path through the mire of memories and shadows, her heartbeat synchronizing with their frantic movements. But just as they began to break free, the shadows coiled again, stronger, thicker than before, beseeching her presence. "You can't escape!" they shrieked, a cacophony tugging at her very essence. "Face the truth!" With each step toward the door, vulnerability threatened to seize her. What was the truth? What lay buried beneath the layers of heartbreak? The threshold was almost tangible, yet the darkness screamed louder, more insistent. "What are you most afraid of?" The shadowy voice whispered, an echo of torment that sank deep into her conscience. Megan hesitated, torn between the doorway and the crushing weight of her past. The shadows merged, stealing breaths, choking the light. Just when she thought they might break free, an overwhelming darkness loomed, familiar but foreign, interwoven with truths that felt too heavy to bear. Without warning, a violent gust of wind burst through, ripping the gas station doors open, dispersing some of the shadows momentarily. But dread crawled back fast, and the shadows roared in outrage. Fury and terror mingled inside her. Megan turned to her friends, hearts in sync, knowing their survival depended on that moment of honesty. "Let us do this." We faced them together. As they surged forward, a weighty silence fell. The whispers faded, leaving nothing but an echoing heartbeat resounding in the darkness. With shadows circling around them, Megan thought she glimpsed a way out. But the question that haunted her remained: what truth awaited, and would it be enough to conquer the darkness once and for all? The shadows howled, reverberating through the gas station, and for a chilling moment, the world felt frozen. The air thickened, as if it were alive, wrapping tight around Megan and her friends. She could almost taste it, metallic and bitter, like fear itself. Now! We can't stop! Rich shouted, his voice breaking through the oppressive silence. Between them and the door stood the yawn of darkness, teetering on the edge of reality. Every instinct told her to bolt, but she found herself rooted in a consuming dread. Tara, with eyes wide and frantic, shouted, "We have to move! It's not just Lisa, it's us they want!" Megan squeezed Lisa's hand, searching her friend's eyes for any pitch of hope, for evidence of the girl she once knew. "You're here! Fight back!" The connection felt fragile, but there was power in shared pain. But the shadows were insidious. They wrapped around the four of them like a net, tightening with each heartbeat. Memories swirled in the darkness, distant laughter now mingled with muffled cries. Megan's heart raced. A piece of her wanted to turn back, to confront what lingered in her past, to illuminate those moments, but the other part screamed to run, to flee from the painful truths lurking just beneath the surface. "Face it!" The shadows seemed to shout in unison, each syllable a dagger stabbing deeper into their souls. "You know what you did. You know the lies." Megan's breath hitched. The memories clawed at her, insistent. Nights spent whispering secrets, promises made, and the one night they never spoke of together ensnared in choices that shattered their trust. "Stop!" she yelled, her voice cracking under pressure. "Not now!" Suddenly, a piercing laugh shot through the air, distortion bleeding through the ghostly whispers. It sounded like Lisa, but twisted and warped. The shadows quivered as if relishing her turmoil. "Megan, do you remember the truth?" Lisa's voice drifted, a mere echo, now laced with something darker. A ghostly image flickered before her, the night of the accident replaying, the aftermath echoing in her mind. The others were caught in the same vision, faces racked with pain. Rich gripped the metal rod tighter, knuckles white as he shouted against the encroaching darkness. "Focus! We're strong together. We have to spit in the face of all this." But the snarl of the shadows intensified around them, drowning out their courageous words. They seemed to pulse with life, filled with unspeakable malice, ready to consume anything that dared defy them. Megan felt the darkness's cruel embrace encircling her, and a chilling thought nestled in her mind. If they fought against the shadows, would they be fighting against their memories too? Could they handle what those memories would unleash? "Face it! Embrace us!" the shadows mocked. The twisted laughter cupped her ears, their voices sounding almost familiar, an old torment rising to the surface. "No! We fight!" Tara screamed, the tremor in her voice betraying the fear beneath her bravado. The edges of their vision seemed to blur as the shadows twitched like serpents ready to strike. Then Lisa's eyes caught Megan's, darting between resolve and despair, a clash of memories swirling in her gaze. "Megan, what do you fear most?" The question reverberated around them, echoing in the depths of her soul. In a deafening heartbeat, the shadows pressed closer, ready to swallow them in whole. The moment felt monumental, like a flickering candle in a howling storm. Megan took a step forward, a whisper of a plan forming in her heart. I fear what we might lose," she exclaimed, her own voice trembling now. "Together!" Rich and Tara echoed, their voices rising, a courageous chorus woven through shared regret, love, and determination to survive. But as they joined hands, feeling the weight of their collective fear, one question lingered in the air like a noose. Would their truth be their salvation or their doom? The shadows writhed, and the air crackled with anticipation. They were on the brink, a precipice of light and dark, and Megan's heart hammered painfully against her ribs. Did they really possess enough courage to face what lay ahead? And if they did, what awaited them on the other side of the darkness? Everything blurred into chaos as the shadows lunged forward, a tidal wave of darkness spilling over what little light remained in the gas station. Megan gasped as their clammy tendrils brushed against her skin, freezing her in place. The cold seeped through her veins, weighing her down like lead. She sensed it then, the unmistakable grip of fear wrapping around her throat like a choking vine. "Keep holding on!" Rich shouted, trying to keep the encroaching darkness at bay. The sound of his voice was suddenly swallowed, muffled by the gnawing uncertainty that thrummed in the air. Tara was shaking, barely maintaining her thready grip on Megan's hand. We have to remember. We have to remember that night. Her eyes flared with desperation, and the strength in her voice cracked the atmosphere like breaking glass. The shadows responded, skittering back just a moment, as if she struck a nerve. They pulsed, twisting into grotesque faces that echoed their worst fears, each one morphing into the specter of memories better left buried. Megan's heart clenched, recalling the bright headlights illuminating the road and the sudden screech of tires as if it had happened yesterday. Don't think about it, Lisa cried out, her voice trembling with raw emotion. We can't get lost in there. Then what do we do? Tara's voice broke, the cracking sound a harsh reminder of reality pressing in around them. Rich squared his shoulders, exuding an unwavering determination that Megan wished she could mirror. We face it together. Let us take this head on. Whatever they've brought up, we can beat it if we stand united. He turned his gaze into the swirling shadows, his expression resolute. Let them come! Rich shouted. We are not afraid. Megan felt a flicker of empowerment spark inside her, but it quickly dimmed. How could they possibly withstand this force? The darkness quivered at Rich's defiance, coiling tighter, as if ready to strangle them with his own words. Do you think you can escape the truth? The shadows hissed, their voices sharp like ice against her skin. Look at what you did! The images came rushing back, bold and raw faces she had tried to forget, a night painted with anguish. A flash of headlights. A scream. The sound of shattering glass. The last breath of a warm life now forever extinguished. Stop! Megan screamed, pressing her palms to her ears, forcing herself to block out the memories. Stop it! You're just shadows. But they weren't just shadows. They were embodiments of her guilt, her betrayal. Each figure was a past regret twisted into menacing shapes, letting out last gasps of laughter that pierced through her resolve. The pressure of loss wrapped around her chest like a steel band, drawing tighter the longer she held on to this false sense of unity. Together, Tara breathed, her voice trembling but fierce. We have to fight our past. Megan's eyes darted around the dim glare of the gas station, searching. An idea flickered. What if we confront them instead? She looked from Tara to Rich, determination rising. What if we challenge them with our truth? Rich's brow furrowed. What do you mean? If our darkness lives in our lies, then maybe the light of our honesty can push them back. The shadows hissed, sensing the shift in momentum. Hurried whispers drowned out her thoughts, desperate sounds of anger and panic. You cannot face us with truth. We know your darkest secrets. The ground rumbled beneath them, shaking the gas station's foundation. Dust swirled and fell like an omen as the darkness strained and crackled, furious at their declaration. Megan breathed deeply, gathering her scattered thoughts. We were wrong. But we have to own up to it. Together. But just as they began to prepare for the confrontation, the shadows let out a deafening roar that seemed to shake the very walls, forcing a cold chill down her spine. Megan! They're not listening! Tara screamed, her terror rising. As the shadows lunged again, impossibly swift, Megan's heart raced. This was it. She had to find a way to expose the truth. But what if doing so would unleash a horror more profound than they ever anticipated? The boundary between reality and nightmare blurred once more, and she felt her grip weaken. And as the shadows surged forward, a haunting thought echoed through her mind. What if revealing their truth meant uncovering an even darker secret, one that could tear them apart forever? Can you handle it? The shadows taunted. What lies deeper than what you think you know? The darkness closed in, hungry for their response, each heartbeat pulsing like a drumbeat of destiny. What awaited them at the edge of truth? The shadows crashed upon them like a wave, swallowing the feeble light of the gas station. Darkness festered, a living entity that shrieked and writhed, seeking to consume all hope. Megan felt her pulse thrumming, every beat echoing with a visceral urge to flee. But where could they go? There was no escape from this haunting, not when it lay coiled in the depths of their very souls. Megan! Rich's voice cut through the chaos, strong and steady. We take the fight to them. His words ignited a flicker of courage in her chest, and she forced herself to focus, pushing back against the tendrils that sought to drag her under. What did they have to lose now? Everything they'd brushed aside, the truths they feared were already laid bare. Together, she echoed as she locked eyes with Tara. They wouldn't back down, not now. Leaning into the uncomfortable memories, Megan exhaled sharply. It was me. I was behind the wheel that night. Her confession broke through the cacophony, a shattering sound that sent ripples across the shadowy entities before them. I was reckless. I thought you thought it wouldn't matter? One of the figures snarled, its twisted features matching her deepest regret. It smirked at her, reflecting every ounce of shame she harbored. Megan's voice steadied as she continued. But I was wrong. I didn't just ruin my life, I ruined yours too. The shadows recoiled, hissing as if stung. She felt a connection to Tara and Rich deepen, a thread of shared pain binding them together. They were traps of their own design, but in that admission, there was a chance of liberation. Tara clenched her fist, her voice unwavering. I wasn't there when it happened, but I should have been. I should have taken a stand. Her confession hung in the air, heavy and thick, inviting judgment from the void. Rich nodded, catching the fervor. No more hiding. I let you both shoulder my guilt. I never told you how I felt. I was afraid of losing you. His words struck like a whip, snapping the shadows back, thinning their numbers as confessions cut through the murky veil of despair. Megan could feel it, a tremor of acknowledgement vibrating through their unified stance. We were each other's burdens, but we're not alone. Not now. The shadows twitched, uncertain now, their malevolence shifting like a tide pulled away from the shore. Each whispered regret was met with an outpouring of truth, forcing the darkness to retreat. But it wasn't finished yet. The figures twisted and morphed into their own sources of dread. What if the light you seek only leads to more darkness? They crooned, a chorus of dread threading through Megan's thoughts. No! Rich shouted, determination igniting. We are choosing to tell the truth. We will not succumb. With every word they shared, a piece of the shadow's grasp loosened. But amidst the shifting shapes and desperate wails, another, more ominous figure began to coalesce. It loomed larger, darker, tedious in manner. You think your petty truths will shield you from what lies ahead? It intoned, voice chilling and mocking. What you uncover could destroy you sooner than your guilt ever could. Megan's heart sank. An instinct whispered that this wasn't just about what happened that night. It went deeper, striking at the very core of their bond. Tara's breath hitched, a tremor running up her spine. What do you mean? Laughter echoed from the figure, an unsettling sound that reverberated through their bones. You won't just confront fear, you'll confront each other. As the shadows swirled dangerously close, a gut-wrenching pressure slammed into Megan's chest. What if their light, their honesty, turned them against one another? Do we even know the depth of our truths? She thought, her fraught hope hanging by a thread. The walls of the gas station shook again, trembling under the weight of revelation. With one last deafening roar, the horde surged, an overwhelming wave of darkness, their identities at stake. Megan! We have to finish this! Rich yelled, but her mind was spinning. What if truth led to fracture instead of freedom? And as the conflict brewed to a boil, the last question hung in the air, sharp and cold. What if the secrets they had avoided would tear them apart before they could find any kind of unity? With shadows pressing in, time was running out. The final battle for their souls had just begun. Megan's heart raced as the shadows lunged forward, darkness clawing at their every breath. The air thickened, pregnant with the weight of their shared past. It felt like a fever dream, the figures morphing endlessly, ghost-scripters of guilt and regret. Together! She shouted, rallying the last threads of their courage. With renewed resolve, they joined hands, creating a fragile line of unity despite the chaos. The shadows shrieked, startled by their defiance, recoiling for a brief moment, just long enough to give them hope. We need to confront the truth. Rich's voice rang out, raw and fierce, cutting through the cacophony. This isn't just about that night. We've been hiding from so many things. Megan took a steadying breath. Everyone has had a part to play in this, a burden we all share. The shadows flickered, hesitating as the truth began to seep out, like sunlight piercing through an unyielding storm. Suddenly, Tara stepped forward, voice unwavering. I ran away for so long, avoiding the pain because I thought keeping quiet would spare us. But refusing to fight was my biggest sin. Her eyes blazed with a fierce light as though breaking through chains that had long held her down. Exactly. Lisa's call felt like a jolt of energy. The shadows lurched, but didn't he come closer? We've been lying to ourselves about our friendship, about how our choices affected each other. We have all seen it, felt it, and buried it deep within. As if struck, the shadows writhed and pulsed in agitated waves, caught in turmoil. The darkness seemed to hiss, transforming into grotesque shapes of their memories, cackling and mocking, but now tinged with uncertainty. Rich stepped up next. What tore us apart was never the truth, it was our fear of it. We need to own what happened, all together now. The shadows flickered again, a sign of weakening, and Megan seized the moment. We faced our guilt, but in doing so, we ignored our love for each other. The bond we share is stronger than any regret. With each word, they claimed their truth, inching toward immense vulnerability. True strength lies in unity, Megan declared, the weight of their fears lifting slightly as waves of warmth enveloped them. The more they spoke, the more the shadows recoiled, their strength dwindling between the powerful confessions echoing in the gas station walls. We are here for one another! Tara yelled fiercely, and with each shout reverberating in the air, flickers of gold broke through the dark, shining where only shadows had thrived. As the last confessions burst forth, the warmth of shared joy, laughter of memories, the shadows howled, their forms flickering like a dying flame. You think you can escape? They lingered, panic edging into desperation now. But this time, Megan held steadfast. No! We're here to reclaim our friendship. We choose love. With a final surge, the shadows shook violently, twisting into writhing forms, their laughter now fading into pained wails. Megan, Tara, Rich, and Lisa pushed back against their fears, standing firm, hearts pounding in unison. In one final act of unity, as if woven together by an unbreakable thread, they shouted, "We embrace our truth!" And just like that, the shadows shattered, bursts of light exploding around them. Silence followed, like a soft blanket comforting their ragged hearts, seeping into the gas station. The dusky figures evaporated one by one, leaving nothing but soft illuminations, echoing laughter, and restored memories unfurling in the air. Megan nearly cried as the vibrant warmth enveloped them, like sunlight breaking through a long winter-esque night. We did it, she whispered in astonishment, glancing at her friends, witnessing the bond that had emerged anew. Together they breathed, the words echoing softly, not as a triumph but as acknowledgement of their resilience. Stepping outside, they discovered the diner bathed in moonlight, serene and still. They looked at each other, hearts laid bare but healing. The weight of the past was still there, but it no longer felt like a crushing burden. Instead, it felt like a story bound with love, marked by lessons learned. They had chosen to face the darkness so they could step into the light. As they finally left the shadows behind, Megan felt the click in her chest, the closing chapter they wrote together, turning the haunting memories into melodies of hope and friendship. They might not have all the answers, but they had each other, and that would always be enough. The end, or maybe just the beginning. If you love this journey, and you don't want to miss out on more heart-pounding stories like this, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is your moment to show massive support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and trust me, it makes a difference. Be sure to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this emotional roller coaster-esque conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this thrilling end. Join the community of true fans who understand the importance of supporting this channel.